Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Q&A, LifeTech Q&A. I'm Hannah Satterwhite, and I'm the Assistant Director of Advocacy and Education at St. Louis ARC. We have Chris Helmick here today. Thanks for joining us, Chris. And Chris, you work at the ARC. Which department are you with at the ARC?
I work in assistive technology, so I'm the assistant director of assistive technology, innovation, and research. And yeah, it's me and one other person that do a lot of assistive technology around the agency.
Since we're starting out using the term assistive technology, would you mind giving a little bit of an overview of what assistive technology means?
Yeah, so generally, a lot of times, assistive technology, for most definitions, means it's like any item, any piece of equipment, any system. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be a piece of equipment. It could just be some kind of system that's in place that's used to increase, maintain, or improve some kind of functional capability. And this could be like a wide range of things. So it could be anything from something low tech, like a piece of paper and a pen that's made into a task list, to something like very high tech, like a robot that can talk to you and can keep you company when you're by yourself or something like that, or even speech generating devices. So it's really wide range of things.
And you're also going to mention enabling technology too. Would you like to
Yeah.
share what that is and what the difference is?
Yeah, so enabling technology, it's kind of a newer term that's been around. And a lot of times, enabling technology will tend to be talking about items that you can kind of purchase off the shelf. A lot of times, you are generally looking at like more high tech type of items. Sometimes, when people say remote supports, that's usually looking at things like enabling technology. And these are really just technologies that are meant to enable us to be more independent, to have more access to things, and be able to participate more in daily life. And it's not necessarily like for people with or without disabilities or different kind of abilities. It can be something like a GPS that can help you find your way around town. So it really is kind of that little bit of a niche of assistive technology, where assistive technology might be a little more broad speech. Enabling technology usually kind of has to do with a lot of those kind of items. Smart home devices a lot of times would be put in that category of enabling technologies. It's enabling us to do something a little bit easier and to make life a little easier.
All right. Well, one of the things we're here today to talk about is lifetechstl.org. Would you like
Yeah.
to share what that website is and what people can do there?
This website, it's really meant to be like a resource for people to find more information about different kind of assistive technology and enabling technology, um, different kind of material as far as uh, like how-tos, also different there's, I'll show you in a little bit, but there's different resources like guides that we might put in there, or on certain websites there's like maybe like Apple has something on their website that really lays out how to set up something in one of their devices like an iPhone, or to use certain kind of features. So sometimes the resource will point to those kind of things a little bit easier. But it can also be just an idea of like different kind of things that might be out there. And you can search through things as well to try to find those resources a little bit easier. There's also different kind of categories that we've laid out so that you can find things depending on which category you might be looking for, or whether or not something is a low-tech device or a high-tech device or a mid-tech device. So it's really meant to try to make it easier to find resources and pull that into one spot so you can look through and make a little bit more of an informed choice. And it's really meant to also be for everyone. So caregivers, parents, staff, but also anybody that's interested in finding some tools that might help them out in their day-to-day life as well. So, I mean, there's some of the resources that I have on here that I actually use as well.
I kind of thought of a question as you were talking about the site. How would someone know that they might want to start looking for some assistive or enabling tech? Would there be specific things they wanted to work on or signs that they might be a good fit for some of this technology?
I would really say most times when I look at assistive technology, I don't really think of what the technology is that I'm looking for. I think of the task or the things that I might want to do.
Hmm.
And then I try to find the technology that might help me with that. Sometimes I'll look at it as like, is there a barrier that I might have that a piece of technology is going to be able to help me get past that barrier? So one that like a lot of people I know commonly use as an example for assistive technology, and I mean I could not really probably do a lot of things in my day-to-day life, is glasses. This is assistive technology. If I did not have this technology on my face, I would not be able to do a lot of things. But I also need to go see an eye doctor to be able to get my eyeglasses. So sometimes you need to go to a professional like that that's going to be able to give you directions. Sometimes it might be like, you might need a wheelchair or something like that, and you might have to go to somebody that specializes a little bit more in like finding the right kind of wheelchair, because there's lots of different kinds of wheelchairs out there. But that would still be an assistive technology that's available. It could be that you don't use words and you need some kind of assistive technology to help you speak. And that could be a wide variety of things, from anything from having an AAC device, which is an alternative and an augmentative communication device, or maybe even having some communication cards that you have on a key ring. Both of those will serve a lot of the similar purposes and give you more communication, but it's fitting whatever that need is and whatever that you as a person might need to help you get past those barriers. So I think when I look at it through that lens a little bit more, instead of trying to find the technology that's going to fit the thing, I look at more of what is it that I'm struggling with, or what is it that I might need some assistance with, that maybe some kind of technology might be able to help me out. And sometimes too, we might have the technology already on us, especially nowadays with cell phones. There's a lot of really great features on cell phones that can do a lot of things for people. And it's just setting up the device a little bit differently. So I think that when I look at it through that and see what task, most times it's a lot easier to kind of try to figure out what is going to be the best resource for the person. So this is a little bit of trying to kind of navigate a little bit more of that. You can kind of see too that I'll show you a little in this site. Like you can see, yeah, some of these things we're talking about are devices, but like for example, this Apple Shortcut app. This is an app on a device, so you would need to have an Apple device to be able to use this. But it can also serve a purpose and help people in different kind of ways. Or you can have something like this guided hands, which this is a device that if somebody needs a little bit more assistance to be able to write or be able to draw or paint. I've also seen, and I believe they have a picture, yeah, you can put an iPad even on here and be able to like actually use like a stylus on here and guide your hands a little bit easier. And there's lots of cases that that might be something that's very, very useful for you. But what that's where I'm like, okay, so what is the need? Do you want to be able to draw? Do you have difficulty with this? What's going on? Because someone might not need a guided hands. Maybe somebody just needs a really big grip on whatever their marker is or whatever they're coloring with or painting with. They could just need some kind of adaptive grip. So that is where you can kind of figure out what exactly is going to work for me. And I think we all do that naturally anyway with most of the tools that we use, is we find the right tools that work for us, and when they work for us, we stick with them. But sometimes it is a little bit of trial and error. And I do like to give people a little bit of space sometimes to find that trial and error. And this part of the purpose of this site is to also help people like find some things that maybe they didn't know existed even, because there's a lot out there, and we're trying to hopefully narrow it down a little bit, but also maybe something's going to inspire somebody, or they're going to go, ooh, wow, I really want to try that device out, or that looks like it might be really good for me. And yeah, assistive technology is very, very wide. And I'm doing this kind of slowly because I'm hoping that you can kind of see just by me scrolling,
Mhm.
you can see a wide variety of different types of tools.
Someone in the Q&A actually asked, it's funny, they asked almost the same question I had, but at the same time as me, how do you even determine what you or your family member needs? I don't know where to begin because there are so many options.
Yeah.
And also, are they able to contact you if they want to ask questions, or is there a person or a place they could go if they have questions?
Yeah, so definitely if you are supported by the St. Louis Arc, you are welcome to reach out to me, and I try to support as best I can for anybody that's receiving services through the St. Louis Arc on getting them the resources, because I do sometimes know I might not be the right person to be talking to about getting the right resource. One thing though, and there are a few more that are starting to become a little bit more available in this area, but in the state of Missouri in general, is if you do receive waiver services, the state does have a consultation piece for the AT services, so you would just need to talk to the service coordinator. And usually an AT consultation, it will be someone like me who will really just kind of ask a lot of questions to try to help figure out and navigate to some kind of technology. There's also some really good resources on Missouri Assistive Tech's website, and they are also they are a resource that sometimes you can reach out to help with the consultative side of things or to find different kind of devices. They do have a device loan library as well that can be utilized, and that sometimes can help you figure out, like, is this going to work before you actually commit to buying something. It really though does depend on the device you're talking about or what the need is. So an example could be that maybe someone who does not use any kind of language or verbalizations, they need some kind of high-tech AAC device, and it's expensive and you're not really sure who to go through, and you've talked to the service coordinator. Sometimes that is something you can talk to your doctor about, because if there is a diagnosis of certain things, you might be able to get the doctor to get a speech language pathologist involved, and then you can go through insurance and it might be a little easier to go through the processes. But then if it was something for wheelchair support, that could look completely different, and you could possibly still go through your doctor, but you might be going through some other kind of service. Other times it's really, really easy to just go through the waiver, or some counties too have different kind of options and available resources to get some funding. So, and they can most times help you navigate. But yeah, I do understand that question's always difficult for me to answer because there's a lot. So, yes, you can reach out to me, and I will try my best to possibly steer you in a direction if I cannot myself be able to help out. But most times inside the agency at the St. Louis Arc, a lot of people do know how to reach out to me and do it quite often, and I'm always happy to help. I know it's
Yeah.
a really tough thing to navigate.
Yeah, there are so many needs out there and so much tech that people probably don't even know exists. So I could see that being challenging.
Yeah.
Someone asked if the ARC loans equipment.
So if someone is supported within the agency and I have something on hand, I might do, like, allow a little bit of a trial. If they are supported through the agency, though, then I will usually, if Missouri Assistive Technology has a device, then I will go ahead and get the device on loan for the person on behalf of the agency. But I will show you, too, this resource for family members. You can reach out yourself to submit a device request. as well. A lot of times I usually say, hey, if you are with St. Louis Arc, just have me do it, because it's usually a lot easier to just have me do it than having to like get it mailed in and then mail everything back and fill out the forms, because I'll just do all that stuff for you. But they have right in the center section here, find what you want to borrow. And they have a wide variety of different items. So I'll show like AAC devices, like they have some like different kind of talking devices, but they also have these type of speech generating devices, or you could even get something that's more high tech. So they even have eye gaze systems that you can borrow if that's something that someone might have a need for, and you like, especially something with this high tech type of things. These can get really expensive, so being able to try them out can be really, really great. And I have found that that is a good route, because it gives you an idea before you really commit to something, because nobody really likes to spend a lot of money on something and then figure out that it's not going to work for them. And this,
Absolutely.
yeah, this also, I mean, it includes, like, they have a lot of stuff that you can check out through their device loan library. And with the LifeTech site, I have been slightly trying to mirror a lot of things that they have available in their device loan library. So if you get something on loan, then you can find more information about said tool on this website. So there is a little bit of hand in hand that's going on there.
Another question, they're asking again about the returning of the equipment, and if is there any funding or assistance to help with purchasing these items if they decide to keep it or decide to get their own?
Yeah, so usually with MoAT's device loan library, they loan things out for 5 weeks. So you have 5 weeks to try something out, and then you have to mail it back, and they'll send the shipping label to send everything back. The only thing you have to do is make sure you don't throw away the box they send stuff in, so you can send it back to them. They don't really require a whole lot of information back. They just really want to know, was anything successful, and are you going to be looking to purchase anything? But they do also, there's a lot of ways to get assistive technology paid for. But sometimes you can't. And MoAT does also have a solution there where they have financial loans, and these are like very low interest financial loans that you can get to be able to pay for things. This can be something like getting a car altered to be more accessible. You could get, like, because usually that's something that's really high cost and can be difficult to get paid for certain times. But it could also be for like home modifications as well and things like that. So there's different kind of loans. I would say for the actual devices though, depending on what it is, like I said, sometimes you can go through insurance. That does tend to be a little bit quicker. The waiver system is really, really good as far as getting different kind of assistive technology. Most times what you really need to make sure is that your service coordinator understands that you want to pursue that, because they'll usually reach out to a vendor. There's a bunch of different vendors that you can reach out to, and then the vendor is usually going to be the one that's going to help set up a lot of that kind of stuff. You can also, too, as far as funding, sometimes you can get different kind of grants depending on what it is that you're looking for. So I do know, for like example, St. Louis County does have like a one-time grant through the Productive Living Board that you can get for assistive technology funding. So there's a lot of different resources. It's not like they're all in one place, and that's what kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. And that is something with this website that we have been talking about, of trying to figure out how we can make it easier to find some of those resources, because it depends on, are you talking about waiver resources, are you talking about this resource, are you talking about this resource, and this funding. Even to if it's related to a job or work in some way, then you can usually go through vocational rehab, and they have rehabilitation technology, which is essentially the same thing as assistive technology. It's just meant for work. And you can get a lot of stuff funded through that as well.
I have another question in the chat asking, can we contact the ARC if we need help looking into some of this, or where do we start? So yes, I'll say from the family supports team perspective, we do have a contact us form that the ARC uses to submit a question, even if it's where do I go next or direct me to the right place. This is to be used for any question about programs at the ARC. So put your question there and we should be able to help direct you in the right place. Hopefully that answers it for now. I know we can't necessarily give specific advice because everyone's situation will be so different. But we're happy to work
Yeah.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is that I think is a very crucial piece. Is it can be very case by case scenario and what is going on in someone's life.
And depending on, a lot of what we get into in this field is what type of funding do you already have? What type of supports do you already have? Or what are you potentially eligible for? And sometimes it takes a while to figure out what you're eligible for. So, would you explain the difference between high tech, mid tech, and low tech?
I'll actually go into, I think communication is a pretty good place to see a little bit of differences between low tech, mid tech, and high tech. So in assistive technology, there is kind of I guess two fields of thought, but they're really not too far off from each other. Is some people just define things as low tech or high tech. There's no mid tech, and then some do like that differentiation of mid tech because there are some things that do kind of fit in that. Yeah, they're not really that low tech, but they're also not super high tech as well. So low tech, for example, I'll just click this button, and you can see something low tech would be like a first and then visual schedule. So something that you would say, like, you could put Velcro on this and you could say, okay, first we're going to do this, then we'll do this afterwards. And it can be just a printout, very simple. Not usually low tech stuff is simple and oftentimes not expensive. One of the drawbacks sometimes with low tech stuff is that it can't really do a whole lot per se. It usually serves one very, very specific function, and that's it. It doesn't go very much beyond whatever that function is. So like a to-do list, that could be another example of something that's low tech, pen and paper. Another example could be something like a visual schedule, or a wall calendar, or like communication cards that are just printed out and laminated. So something simple like that usually would be that low tech. Mid tech, I often like to think of mid tech as what we would usually define as maybe electronics in a certain kind of sense. A lot of times they have power, but maybe they don't have like a screen that you can press a bunch of stuff on. So they'll usually be like buttons, or things that are a little bit more complex than something low tech. So like these big step-by-steps, these are talking buttons that you can actually program voices into, and be able to press the button. Yeah, the button is pretty simple, and it does have a lot of low tech benefits, but also there's some programming that goes into this as well. So it's not completely low tech, but I wouldn't say it's very high tech compared to maybe a robot. And you can kind of see that like some of these things are a little bit more in that like oh yeah, Go Talk Watch, like that's cool. It's a watch that has some communication options on it, but it's not really like communication cards that someone's just carrying around with them. It's a little bit more high tech than that, but it's not super high tech. And then high tech is really, I do consider like this is digital technology almost all the time in a lot of devices that you'll see. Apps, usually I would always put in that high tech type of realm, because just to even have a application, you're usually using a higher tech device that you have to be able to navigate. So there's a little bit more of a learning curve, I feel like, when you're using high tech devices as opposed to low tech devices. But high tech devices sometimes with that learning curve also offer a great deal more benefits. They're usually a little bit more wide ranging and they can do a little bit more than something low tech. Sometimes they can be very, very specific to whatever the function it is supposed to be as well. It's just very high tech to what it is that you're utilizing. And you can kind of see, like with this, a lot of these communication tools on here are very much like apps or kind of very high tech, more complex type of devices. So that's where I kind of see that range. And some people say like it is very much low tech to high tech, where you're talking about pen and paper to a robot that can read for you and talk for you.
I think sometimes people don't consider pen and paper to be technology, but it's a really interesting perspective to think of it like that.
That's where like that term technology kind of is I think until computers came around and the internet came around, we were a lot more broad with the use of the term technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that started, computers basically took over the word tech, and then everything in that kind of digital realm got used as technology. But if you think about it, the wheel was technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very basic.
Yeah.
But technology is always about just moving the human race forward, I feel like, in a lot of ways, and figuring out different systems of doing that. And sometimes it's tools.
So anyone can use this resource. This is a website that people can all poke around on, and
I did try to make it relatively easy to use, so you can search through things based on different like features, even accessibility type things,
awesome.
the different technologies. So it's like so whether or not it's high tech or low tech or mid tech,
Oh, very
and
cool.
also searching through like so if you did want to just like look up communication type tools, and or you're looking for something specific in relation to something like that, if we talk about it in the actual page,
Mm-hmm.
it will bring that up. It's pretty good at referencing what you might be looking for. So it's really just trying to help people find those resources faster.
And Chris, is there anything else that you specifically want to share about assistive tech at the ARC or this resource?
This resource, I feel like in a lot of ways, I tried to make it very self-explanatory, but it is also set up for anybody who does use assistive technologies or different kind of tools to be able to navigate. So if somebody does use keyboard navigation, it does have the ability to keyboard navigate, so you can see that I'm able to scan through just by using my keyboard right now. I'm not using my mouse.
Mm.
Um, so there are options like that available, just to make it as user-friendly as possible, so that people can get to the resources that they want and they might need and find useful. The other thing too that I would say as far as assistive technology that is good to look at is this Missouri Assistive Technology resource. So in the U.S., we have this Technology Act that was passed, and all 50 states plus a few of the territories actually receive funding to be able to set up different programs like this. So Missouri Assistive Technology is our Technology Act program facilitator. You can even see on their front page here, it says that's how they're funded for their mission. And they are a really great resource. If you're in the agency at St. Louis Arc, by all means come to me and I will try to direct you as best I can. But if you are not with the agency and you are looking for assistive technology resources, this is definitely a good first step, is to reach out to them, because they work with everyone. They work with schools, they work with Department of Mental Health, they work with vocational rehab, any age, any disability as well. So it doesn't have to be intellectual or developmental disabilities. They also work with aging population a lot and different disabilities related to that. So I do think that they're a really good resource to look at, and you can see that their site is pretty extensive, but definitely a good first step is that device loan if you're looking for some things. Also, I mean, they have the telecommunication access programs, so they have a lot of setup for a lot of these different programs that the state has funding for as well, that might get you pointed to the right direction. So, and if you are working with the state, I would definitely make sure that you talk to your service coordinators about this and the people that you're working with, because there's so much out there that sometimes it is finding the right professional or the right tools or the right person to talk to in regards to that. I could recommend a speech language pathologist for assistive technology, but I could also recommend an occupational therapist for assistive technology. So it really depends.
Absolutely. Yeah. So reach out to those resource folks that you have available to you. And again, just a plug that St. Louis Arc does have a contact us page. So if you don't know where to start, feel
Yeah,
free to
let me.
have us help you. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining us, and everyone
Thank you.
have a great rest of your day.